have Sister ZARINAH here, and she, of course, is the award-winning documentarian as well as a TV host, a writer, a producer, have done great things in the United States as well as out of the United States, working on numerous of projects. Have been knowing this sister for a very, very long time, and always glad to get caught up with her. We've known so much things about her that we still don't know because that's why we have her here to talk about some of the things that she has been doing, is doing presently, and look at some of the stuff that she's doing in the future. Please, we'd like to welcome our sister, our friend, our mentor. How is it going, my sister? And tell us what the day, what brings you here to the Washington, D.C. area?
Originally, I came here for a presentation that I did last night. And actually, before I even say any of this, let me at least say Assalamu alaikum. May God's peace and blessings be upon you and all. I came here to do a presentation at Howard University School of Divinity last night, and it was to speak about one of the films that I've done on some of the African American pioneer Muslimas in Washington, D.C. These are women who are from the ages of 72 to 94 years old, and they spoke about their experience growing up in Christian homes and eventually becoming Muslim through the Nation of Islam, and then coming into their own in Islam with Imam W.D. Muhammad. I was here also to speak about my own experience as a Muslim and what life has been for me for, well, I guess from childhood and all. And I had an opportunity to share that with several students at a class given by Dr. Zainab Alwani at Howard University School of Divinity.
So tell us, there's a lot of things that people don't understand. You are a person who went to many different universities, many different schools. You have a lot of extensive background. Your bio reads like who's who, and who needs to make sure that they get in contact with you. It's like you have a real impressive bio, and they always say that there's always that great person that you need to know, and you are definitely a great person who we need to know. Tell us a little bit about your education, a little bit of things. Take us in your past, son, before you became this award-winning TV host and documentary. Tell us a little bit of who you are and how you got started doing what you're doing.
Well, let me say I didn't go to a lot of universities. I have done a lot of programs after doing my undergraduate and graduate work, but I started as a teenager. I'm not going to go back to elementary and junior high school. I was born and raised in Trenton, New Jersey, went to Trenton High School many years ago. In fact, I had my class reunion about 2 years ago, my 50th class reunion, okay? And it was a delight to be able to see a lot of the students that were a part of my life in high school. And unfortunately, many of the students also have passed because I came up during the Vietnam era and also civil rights, and many people have passed because of the wars and also natural causes, and they've gotten older. I was always interested in going to school in California, and there were 3 schools that I had dreamed to go to: San Francisco State University, UC Berkeley, and UCLA. Well, fortunately for me, I did San Francisco State and UC Berkeley, and I did my undergraduate and graduate work at San Francisco State University, and eventually I worked at UC Berkeley in the psychology department and in journalism. My work at San Francisco State, was in communications, radio and television and film, and I did my graduate work in the creative arts disciplinary program, which was film, dance, music, theater. My emphasis was on marketing and public relations, and I minored in African American studies.
Wow. So, talk a little bit about your training at Berkeley. I know you also, very instrumental. There's some music things that's going on with you. Tell us a little bit about that as well.
Well, when I first started college, I left that part out. I started at Trenton State College in New Jersey. I was a music major, classical music. I was a voice major and a piano minor. I played piano, organ, violin, and flute, and my voice. At some point, I was thinking of being an actress and a singer or an entertainer, performer. And I realized, though, that I did not want to be, as it's now called, the part of the Me Too movement. I did not want to be a part of the casting couch. And I unfortunately had where there were times when I would go for an audition or meet with different people, men, that were not really necessarily interested in me taking on a job as the actress or the singer, but they were interested in something more than that. And at least now, at this point in my life, because these issues have come out for many other women, I am able to at least speak about some of that. I won't go into any detail other than to say that I too was part of Me Too, and it's definitely not something that's very pleasant. And if a woman, or a man for that matter, is trying to pursue a certain area or a discipline in their life, in entertainment, I suppose even in athletics, in science, in a lot of different areas, you have to fight to get to the top, so to speak. And I'm not going to say that I'm at the top. I have won some awards for my work in media, but it's not exactly the top. I just going back a little bit though, in terms of music, I do appreciate the fact that while learning those different instruments, it also gave me the thrust in life to enjoy many genres of music. So classical, jazz, rhythm and blues, popular music. I even like some hip hop, not too fond of rap necessarily, but I will say that I am impressed with the fact that young people, men and women, can remember all those words and say some of the things that they find as their experience in life and can put them in spoken words.
So, After the music phase, then you went into journalism, media. Tell us a little bit about that, please.
When I went to California, my goal at San Francisco State was to not necessarily get involved with journalism. I went to Laney College, which is in Oakland, got my AA there in language arts, and then eventually transferred to a four-year school, which was San Francisco State. I also wanted to go to California coming from New Jersey because of the student movements. I was very encouraged and thought about what it must be like to be an activist. That's the word they use now, but I don't think it was quite the word back then in the 60s and the 70s. But be that as it may, there were things that were going on at San Francisco State, at UC Berkeley, at other schools around the country that made me think about what is actually going on in the world. And it was wonderful to see people that were doing other things than just being students or just dealing with academics. They were concerned about what was going on in the world. Let me just mention, I just got back from California a couple of days ago, and I was there for several things, but one of them was the 50th anniversary of the College of Ethnic Studies, which that was my minor at, as San Francisco State was my alma mater, and Danny Glover was the keynote speaker, and he was one of the people way back then, 50 years ago, that was very involved with the student movement and also trying to get classes as African American Studies, La Raza, which is Latino or Chicano Studies, the Asian American Studies, Native American Studies, and so much more. And there were times when they had to deal with the police on the campus, there and at other schools, just in order to get certain things that were dear to them and they felt needed to be taken care of or done as students.
You know, a lot of people wouldn't think of Danny Glover as, like you say, the terminology activist. You know, we see him as an actor, but we always knew that he had a voice. I mean, there's a couple of things that he always spoke out against. Tell us, after, you know, your California days, then you came back to the East Coast. What was your next adventure?
My next adventure. I don't know if it was an adventure, but I am an avid traveler. I love to read. I love music. I've also been a wife. I have one son and one grandson. I have to say, as I did to my son just recently, that there are two things in my life that I do not regret. One was becoming a Muslim, and the second was having him, my son. He is now 41 years old, and I have a 16-year-old grandson. Those were not my adventures, but those are things that are dear to me, and I think about what it's like to, you know, travel, and many times where I travel, I took my son. We went to England, we've been to the Caribbean, we moved around in the United States a little bit. He was born in Chicago, he lived in California, and eventually we moved to Atlanta, and now he and I are both in New Jersey, where I was born and raised. We do not live together, but we are in touch with one another, and I'm back home there in New Jersey. Adventures, I would say had to do more with maybe my travels outside of the country, outside of the United States, living in Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, traveling to Cuba, and to a number of other places that I was either studying or just for purposes of what we call peace building or interfaith activities. I am the producer and host of a television show called Perspectives of Interfaith, which for me has allowed me the opportunity to travel to places like Palestine and Israel, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and on and on.
Let's speak a little bit about from for those who just coming in late. We're talking to the award winner, host, TV host, documentary ZARINAH SHAKIR. I'm hoping I'm saying your name right. I don't want to butcher it. I don't want to butcher it up. There's a lot of things again for those who come in late. We just talk a little bit about the day, what it meant, honoring a great mentor of hers, a great professor, a friend to a lot of people. We also talking about her early days of being at Berkeley and studying. We're coming forward to a moment that she's now traveling and about to get inspiration to do the documentary. Let's talk about what motivated you to do your documentary and what motivated you to, to put that out, because it's needed. It was needed, first of all, but what motivated you to do that?
Well, let me just correct you. I didn't study a lot at UC Berkeley.
Okay.
I worked at UC Berkeley.
Okay.
I took a few classes while I was there, but I worked for 4.5 years at UC Berkeley. And it was, for me, going to San Francisco State and working at UC Berkeley were dreams fulfilled for me, coming from New Jersey and looking at the schools that I wanted to go to as opposed to those schools that many of my classmates at Trenton High went to. A lot of the HBCUs, which was a good thing. I wanted to perhaps go to Howard or Hampton, but San Francisco State, which I've said that name several times now, was really my dream. And it was because of the student movements and the activities that were taking place in the world in the 60s and the 70s. The documentary that I did, or two, it's a part one and a part two, is called The African American Pioneer Muslimas in Washington, D.C. And it's about 7 different women who 6 of them were from the South, from North Carolina and South Carolina, and the 7th sister, she's originally from Washington, D.C., born and raised. And these particular women were brought up in homes in the South as Christians, but there were certain things, just like me, that they were looking for much earlier than me. I didn't know them. They are seniors. I am a junior senior, as I would say to some people. But they were involved in their own kind of activities as they were growing up in the South. And once they came to Washington, D.C., there was something that they were looking for that they were able to find through coming into the temples at that time of the Nation of Islam. And I can say, both of my films are almost an hour long, and they speak about, these particular women speak about their experiences of meeting Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X and meeting the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his wife, Clara Muhammad, and being a part of a community that was not easy for them. If people think that the Muslim ban in America put on by the present president is something to deal with, imagine being a black woman in America where most of your family, your community, where you've lived, where you've gone to church, now hear that you've become a Muslim. What is that? There was a lot of conflict and confusion and things that they dealt with, as I've had to deal with on my own, myself. But fortunately for me, as I like to say, my mantra in life is stay on task, spread the joy and the love, and keep it moving. I live my life as I pray that God would want me to, and I've chosen to be Muslim not because others said, or there was a husband that said, well, you have to be a Muslim. I get that a lot, where people think that I couldn't think for myself, and that the only reason that I became a Muslim, and I think the same with these elderly sisters, they were able to somehow come to some decision on their own to being Muslim. And we were able to capture within those two films a lot of what they had in their hearts. And all of them, all 7, have made Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca. And they have done all the things that they've been required to do as Muslims in this world.
Well, again, we want to applaud you for all your hard work, and we do apologize for the wrong information that we put on. We're so gladly that you corrected us. Moving forward, after the documentaries that you done, both of them, you started doing some traveling, and one time I talked to you, and you was going out of the country. Tell us, I guess it's twofold. Your study at Berkeley and being part of that activist group.
Again, I didn't study at Berkeley.
Okay, being at Berkeley, working at Berkeley,
right.
being at Berkeley, and being involved with the organizations there. How did that prepare you for what you're doing today?
Oh, well, I think leaving New Jersey at a very young age for me and deciding that I wanted to go to school in California, 3,000 miles away, is something that a lot of people, men or women, don't do. There are men who, and some women, who go into the military to travel. There are some who go to schools and people who study abroad and things like that. That was all. I was not involved with the military, but I did have the opportunity to travel a lot on my own, and again, being a black woman in different countries is not always the easiest thing either. It's not so easy in the United States, but being in another country and not necessarily speaking the language or knowing the culture or all the nuance of what may be a part of that particular place and space, you have to, adapt. And eventually you learn what that's about and they learn you.
Well, getting caught up on some things, moving forward, you seem like you just constantly learning, constantly, evolving. You come to a point now that you are doing something great, and you're working with this organization, and I believe that this organization is opposite of what people just can't grasp their head of. Muslim women and Hasidic women working together. You've been working in with all kind of groups, Christian women, and like you said, this the whole aspect of working outside the box, going where people normally don't see a Muslim woman at. Tell us about this organization you're working out with now, Salima. Pronounce the name for us, please.
Okay, Hasidic women, I think maybe you're talking about Jewish women.
Okay.
Okay, the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom,
Mhm.
that's Muslim and Jewish women,
Okay.
but not Hasidic women.
Mhm.
They would be Orthodox Jewish,
Okay.
and there may be some that are in the organization.
Mhm.
But because Muslim and Jewish women in America and in the world
Mhm.
are unfortunately in sometimes they're shunned, they're scorned, people don't understand the faith tradition, and there are a number of misrepresentation, misinformation, and there's also the issue around peace that both Muslim and Jewish women are trying to work on. And that's not to say that Christian women or women of other faith traditions are not looking towards peace within their own lives, their own families, their communities. But in this case, the Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, it's just two faith traditions that happen to be part of the Abrahamic faiths, which would be Jewish, Christian, and Muslim, but in this case, it's just the Jewish and Muslim women. There are chapters around the country, and they just had their fifth annual conference or gathering, which took place in Pennsylvania this year. They've done it at Princeton, at Drew University. 1 year, about 3 years ago, I was the MC for the program, and there were about 500 women there. And also, our keynote speaker, interestingly enough, not a woman, was Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey. We had a lot. There were workshops, there were different, there were a few films that were shown, was lunch, and it was women coming back together to actually discuss what do we do now, what do we do next. The co-founders of Sisterhood of Salam Shalom, Cheryl Olitsky and Atia Aftab. Unfortunately, I get her last name mixed up sometimes, but she's a very dear person. Both of them are. And the work goes on. Let me just say, it's ongoing. And I'm not going to say that we have all the answers, not at all, but the chapters try to get together and to talk about some of the issues that we may have as women, and particularly as Muslim and Jewish women in this society.
Well, I applaud you for that, for being part of that. Somewhere down the road, my question is will that group get a chance to splinter and work with a male organization of Muslim men and Jewish men?
I don't think that's their goal. I mean, they have Muslim and Jewish men that come. Many of these women are married, and their husbands come, and they participate with the group. But I personally think men need to do their own thing. They need to, Muslim men, Jewish men, Christian, all of them, they need to work on those things themselves, and then perhaps we can come together and talk and have some other goals that we are aiming for together. But I don't think that that's the goal of this group, to have Muslim men and Jewish men coming together with the women in that sense.
For all those who are just coming in, we're speaking with a dear friend. We like to call her our mentor. She's been doing great things. We also, can you give people ways to contact you, please, and also how they can go about seeing and supporting you and your work that you have been doing?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a website yet. There was someone that was working on something for me, and that has not been put up yet. And I'm not, I don't think, in a position to give out my phone number right now. But I would like to say that you can find my work on YouTube, or you can Google it, and you can see some of what I've done. In fact, I've not put any of that up there, but somehow someone has been able to put a lot of the work that I've done at Arlington Independent Media, DCTV, and others that I've worked with. There were a number of things, as I just think back, that I didn't go into, such as my studies at Yale for what was called the Teaching of Africa, my studies at Hartford Seminary. I was not training to become a minister or a preacher, but Hartford Seminary offers the oldest Islamic studies classes in the United States. They've been doing this for over 100 years. And I've done other studies at places like Georgetown, Wesley, Theological, and on and on.
Well, listen, time is really, really past us. We were supposed to be only 5 minutes, and you have been patient with us. We're now in the half-hour mode. But we're going to ask you, can we come back and do a part 2?
Yes, I would like to know what the part 2 is going to be about, because I've pretty much covered everything that I've been involved with.
You got a whole bunch of week coming up, and you're going to be doing a whole bunch of other things. So from now until the next time, we're quite sure you're going to be very busy. So we're going to make sure that our viewers stay in contact with us and stay in contact with you. Once again, to all our viewers, we thank you for being here. We did not tap anybody. We did not take no questions. Next time, maybe the sister will take some questions and answers. Y'all guys can chime in and maybe get some things done. Once again, it's a pleasure talking to the sister ZARINAH. How, what can we look for in the future? You want to give us a heads up on some things?
I'm working on a couple of more films.
Okay.
And I am interested in continuing my work around interfaith and even intrafaith, because there are times when Muslims can really work well with Christians and Jews and other faith traditions, but sometimes we're not doing the best with ourselves. So intrafaith is also important, where we can sit down and talk about how we can solve some of the problems of with our families, our communities, and with the world, and where people may have the miscommunication of who we are and how we can solve some of that as we move along.
Well, again, we want to thank everybody. We want to thank you, sister, for blessing us with your time and your energy. By all means, make this your home. Come back and visit us. Do not stay away. I'm quite sure the viewers will love to hear more, see you more. And we're going to do our best to make sure that the viewers, we have a lot of your work, and we're going to make sure that we try to get it out to our viewers, and we're going to work on getting your webpage up. Ladies and gentlemen, I know I shouldn't say ladies and gentlemen, because people always say, stop saying ladies and gentlemen. They're just the person I am. Anyway, to all our viewers, we want to say again, thank you. As always, remember, we are sisters and brothers all over the world. Cain did kill Abel. We have to wonder why. As always, until the next time, keep it in the community.